What do you think your biggest mistake was?
I honestly wish I'd never met her.
Pause. Oh, that was so good. Did you see?
The 3 million pages of Epstein files had over 150 high-profile names, and yet the only person that's actually serving time is Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, today, Mr. CIA Spy, you're going to help us read the body language and verbal cues to finally find out the truth. So how guilty is she? Play the video.
I believe that he was murdered.
Pause. So right out of the gates, you actually see her hands on her face. You see them on her chin and then moving up to her eyes. This is a sign of somebody who is feeling vulnerable and at risk. It's a very strong sign that whatever's being said right now is something that they are doing to protect themselves.
Oh.
So that comes from us as cavemen in the wild, where we had to protect our jugular from anything that might jump us, right? And you see her starting with that.
All right, let's press play.
Well, I was shocked. And I wondered how it had happened. I honestly wish I'd never met him. You know, looking back now, her stories have changed so many times about what happens, when it happens, how it happens, with different versions. And each time she speaks, there's a different version.
Stop there. When she starts to specifically recount her argument with Virginia, you literally can see her eyes reference the creative side of her brain and stay there.
Can we play that?
Her stories have changed so many times about what happens, when it happens, how it happens, with different versions. And each time she speaks, there's a different version. What's a fake?
Pause. So you could see it right there. This look to the right side of her brain. She's trying to create a debate rather than tell what she remembers to be the truth. And even if you look beyond the micro expressions in a blurry video, she has to put effort into rejecting the very obvious realities that if somebody goes through something that traumatic, they will not remember the details. They will not remember them top of mind. You can't expect a victim to be perfectly exactly correct until after they've had a chance to heal through their process. And that's part of why you see her locking her head and her gaze in one direction where I can defend myself safely. That's what I'm seeing and hearing in her voice.
Okay, hit it.
Her stories have changed so many times about what happens, when it happens.
Pause for a sec, actually. She's really rubbing her hands a lot. I just noticed that. Is that out of like grooming, like you're comforting yourself?
So when you see kinetic activity like that, it's a sign of effort. When you're looking for deception, you're looking for signs of effort, because honesty is very easy. It's painful, but it's easy. So you don't normally see a lot of kinetic activity when someone's telling you a painful true story. You don't see a lot of animation. But when somebody's fabricating, you see a lot of effort. And this strikes me as a sign of effort. It could also be that she's looking for a way to comfort herself.
All right, well, we'll hold on to that because we've got other interviews of her, so we'll see if we see it repeated. All right, so I know that was very brief, but from what you've seen, out of 10, 1 being completely lying and number 10 being completely truthful?
I'm giving Ghislaine the highest possible rating out of 10 for the honesty of her story would be a 5. And the reason I'm giving her that as the highest possible is because there were large sections that we couldn't see her. And that's why if we were to have seen her, even for the full 45 seconds, that score of 5 may have very well been a 3. We don't know, right? And that's a horrible place to be when in less than a minute, you score 50% on being honest. That means more time would just lower the score most likely.
Thank you for reminding me. I keep forgetting that the environment makes a difference. And so that's really what you're pinpointing. And it didn't even dawn on me, the difference between hearing and doing an interview audio. Like that all just made complete sense.
And I want to give you a spy term for that.
Ooh.
We call it atmospherics. Atmospherics. The atmosphere of the event is extremely important. And the atmospherics include everything from who's sitting across from you to what you're sitting in, the temperature in the room, the noise level outside. These are all atmospherics. And it's why we've all walked away from a situation where we were like, why did I act that way?
Oh,
And we've like, that wasn't me. That was so out of character. I'm so surprised at myself, whatever else. It may have just been because you were cold. And all that shivering increased your heart rate, increased your blood pressure, and all you were thinking of, why can't somebody turn up the heat? When do I get to leave? And that made you that much more aggressive or that much more antsy or that much more unpredictable in that moment. So atmospherics affects us all the time, but it's so subtle. Once you stop to think about those things, you will notice them.
Yeah.
But most of the time we don't.
Now I'd like to move on to Ghislaine actually was in a deposition. And in case people don't know what happened, Ghislaine was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison on 5 out of 6 counts for her role in sexual exploitation and abuse of minor girls alongside Jeffrey Epstein. And so we've got a video of her now. This was taken in 2016. And I want us to do the same, break down her body language, and let's see what it's telling us.
Can you list for me all the girls that you have met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house?
Stop there. The timing for when her eyes rose, it was with the words, all the girls.
Yes.
All the girls that you have met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house.
Yeah. So before we even really jump into this, this is a deposition. Atmospherically, this is a legal interview that she has been heavily prepared for by her legal team. Almost always, there are prearranged statements. The legal team often dictates to the person being deposed what they should say, what they shouldn't say, and verbal cues are heavily restricted, but nonverbal cues are not. So in a deposition, you're 100% right. You want to be really tuned into verbal cues because that reaction was important. Oh, all the girls? And now she will most likely respond with some prefabricated, legally approved, in order to protect my 5th, 12th, and 7th Amendments, something like that. But you were so keen, so correct to focus on that nonverbal response.
Yeah, immediately just hit me. I was like, here we go. She's getting ready to gear up. Okay, hit it.
Can you list for me all the girls that you have met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house that were under the age of 18?
Check the form and foundation.
I could only recall my family members that were there, and I could not make a list of anyone else because that never happened. But I can take off.
I'm talking about during the time that you were working for...
Pause. One of the big challenges with legal questions is they can't prove what you don't say. So you say things like, I don't recall, I can't remember ever saying those things. And then that puts the burden of evidence on the prosecution to have to bring forward the proof that you're lying about what you remember.
Right.
Very difficult thing to do. So this is a very well-shaped, as ludicrous as it sounds. I can only recall my family. In 20 years?
Right.
You can only recall family?
When you'd be like, I don't know, I was friends with him for 20 years. Like, probably. Like, that's how I think a true person would
Exactly.
answer it.
We would try to be honest enough to say it probably happened, but I don't remember exactly when or exactly who. That's not what she's saying.
Yeah. All right, hit it.
You were working for Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
Can you list all the girls that you found for Jeffrey Epstein that were under the age of 18 to come work for him in any capacity?
Check the form and foundation.
So I didn't...
Pause again. She reacts. She reacts in her facial features to those questions about all the girls that you met, all the girls that you brought. This time, instead of it being like, oof, all the girls that I met, and then this time it was all the girls that I brought. Like, you can see these nonverbal cues in real time with the question as she's processing her way through the question. Because the nonverbal is more honest than what the verbal is, right? Is this what would come to your mind if you didn't remember? This strikes me as like, oh my gosh, I totally remember, but what am I gonna say? Right? Right? What were you thinking when you stayed out late past curfew? You're like, oh yeah, I got caught. I don't know. I don't recall what curfew was, right? You're searching for something, right? And deposition preparation is hours and hours and hours. Like, it's a full-time job for a series of weeks before the actual deposition happens, especially when you've got a 20-year sentence that you're potentially facing for sex offenses. She is heavily prepared for this.
Question, would the preparation make a difference if Ghislaine was technically a narcissist or a psychopath because they don't have the emotions?
And that's exactly where my brain was going when I'm watching this first part of the interview. The facial expressions are timed in concert with the questions coming from the prosecution in a way that make me feel like she thinks she's the victim on the stage right now. Like, why are you attacking me like this? How can you expect me to remember? Like, do you not understand that I'm innocent? Do you not understand that you're inconveniencing me? That's what the nonverbals are that I'm getting from Ghislaine here as well. And this has been just the first 2 minutes of this that we've watched. The narcissistic signs that we've seen from her, not only now, but when we tie this back to the interview that we saw of her in jail, right? When she was like, that was not me, that's a totally fake photo. It's that disassociation that is pathologically narcissistic behavior.
All right.
You choose the word.
Well, no, you don't choose the word. If you have a question, ask it.
List all of the girls that you met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's home for the purposes of employment that were under the age of 18.
Objective, form, and foundation.
I've already characterized what my job was, which was to find people, adults, professional people, to do the types of jobs that I listed before. Pool person, secretary, house person, chef, pilot,
But I was asking
architect.
about individuals under the age of 18, not adult persons, individuals under the age of 18.
I only looked for people or tried to find people to fill professional jobs in professional situations.
Under the age of 18, correct?
I think we've established was 17 and
Is she
a masseuse.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Is she the only individual that you met for purposes of hiring someone for Jeffrey that was under the age of 18?
Objective, form, and foundation.
Pause. This is so interesting because we talked about how much preparation goes into these, because oftentimes people, when they are confronted with a question, they feel a responsibility to respond to the question. When narcissists feel attacked by a question, they impulsively defend.
Oh.
So what happens is, in many depositions, the prosecution's job is to try to elicit an emotional response that will create a kind of avalanche of words that will hopefully result in some sort of incriminating content.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're seeing with the prosecution is they are picking alarmist words, aggravating words, incendiary words to try to get the person, Ghislaine in this case, to have an emotional response to defend herself. And it's working right now.
Mm-hmm. And there's signs of her seem agitated.
Absolutely. This is already a high stress situation.
Mm-hmm.
You already know you're on the X. You already know you're the target. You already know you are in a confined space. You're not leaving until the deposition questions have been asked and answered. You have no control over the situation. She knows that. High stakes, high stress. She probably didn't sleep much last night, but the agitation was present here and it was also present in the prison.
Yes.
So we have multiple data points over time and space in different settings to confirm or to suggest with higher confidence that she is aggravated by questioning her decisions, and that victim mentality is a sign of pathological narcissism.
Yeah, I literally was going to say narcissism, because if I was Ghislaine right now and I was innocent and someone's asking me questions, I'll be like, I'm here for you. I'll answer anything you need so that you can get the real people that actually did this. Not get irritated and frustrated with a line of questioning.
Exactly. You for sure wouldn't get irritated. You'd be like, if anything, you would feel kind of embarrassed. You're like, I'm sorry, this is all I'm allowed to say. I would love to do more.
Yeah, you're so right. Now, for context, I don't know if you know, in the time of us recording this, it's 2026. She very recently just did another deposition where her only answer was, I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Which is why I didn't bring it up, because I'm like, every answer is she pleads the fifth. All right, keep playing.
Is she the only individual that you met for purposes of hiring someone for Jeffrey that was under the age of 18?
Objective, form, and foundation. This characterizes her testimony.
So I didn't hire people. I
I
met
didn't
people.
use the word hire. I said
Yes, you
met.
did.
I said met.
So I interviewed people for jobs.
She just acts like she's so above other people. Like the woman who's asking her specific questions, legally needs to ask these questions. And she's just scoffing at her.
It's a phenomenal deposition to see because this is how they should never go.
Oh.
She's breaking down, and it's just a matter of time before she says something incriminating, which arguably she ended up doing because she is now in prison for 20 years.
That's really spot on. Okay.
That were professional people for professional things, and I'm not aware of anyone aside from who clearly was a masseuse aged 17, but that's, at least that's how far we know that I can think of that fulfilled any professional capacity for Jeffrey.
Pause. There is a possibility that what we're seeing is what's called hot seat behavior, which is where your psychological discomfort manifests itself physically, and you're like, let me think about this, right? It's part of why when you take a polygraph, you sit on a pad.
Shut up, you don't.
You sit on a pad that is almost directly under your anus, and it measures your amount of movement
Oh my God.
in your glutes, in your thighs, and in your sphincter.
And people don't know this, I assume.
No, you show up for a polygraph, and there's the chair, and then you see that on the chair, there's a pad that isn't built for comfort, and a wire coming out of the pad, and a little sphincter hole in the middle of the pad.
Oh, there really is a hole. Oh,
yeah.
God. Oh,
It's because they want to measure that hot seat activity.
Oh my God, that's genius. That's genius. Okay, so she's definitely got the hot seat response. Okay.
I had not any idea exactly of the youngest adult employee that I hired for Jeffrey.
When you say adult employee, did you ever hire someone that was under the age of 18?
Never.
Did you ever bring someone who was under, or invite someone who was under the age of 18 to Jeffrey's home, any of his homes?
Subject to the form and foundation.
You can answer.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Did you ever invite anybody under the age of 18 to Jeffrey's homes?
Same objection.
Pause. You can see the difference in her mannerisms. She's sitting up straight instead of leaned back and slouched, right? Her facial tells are much, much less than they were before. When you try to apply this to the real world, right? Because that's really what we're all looking for is how do we get a sense of when somebody's lying to us in real life, right? Everybody has a gas tank that they start the day with. For some people, it's a small gas tank. For some people, it's a big gas tank. And we all know people who have somehow like a reserve gas tank. When you want the truth out of that person, you want to get them when they're in the last 25% of their tank.
Oh, that's a really good way to think about it.
You want them to realize they have a limited amount of energy left because that puts subconscious pressure on them to decide whether or not they're going to spend that energy lying right now or whether they're going to conserve that energy and tell the truth right now. When you challenge somebody at the top of their fuel tank, they're like, I can lie to you all day, right? Psh, I got a whole fuel tank. What else do you want to know? What else do you want to do? I can stonewall you. I can ignore you till I go to work. I can fake it till you go to work. And similarly, when somebody's out of gas, you might get protective behavior. Like, I'm just going to lie to you because I don't want to deal with this right now. I'm just going to avoid the question because I don't have energy right now. I'm going to be aggressive to shut this down because it's only the last 2% of my energy reserves, right? Right? And oftentimes we confront people with demands when we're at the low end of our gas tank because we spent all of our fuel ignoring, accepting, delaying the inevitable conversation we have to have until finally we're at the end of it and we're like, you got to tell me the truth. Strategically, we should be asking when we're in our top 25% and they're in their bottom 25%, and that's the right time to start going through a process where you're trying to detect if somebody is fabricating.
That's so interesting. So seeing here, she doesn't really get as irritable. And so your hypothesis is her gas tank was lower. Therefore, we're seeing more of the true Ghislaine Maxwell in that first section that we assessed.
Correct.
All right, so we're going to move to some other videos that aren't from a deposition, to your point, that is not as controlled environment. So this is her just being questioned in prison. Coming up.
And when you see her shrug her shoulders like that, these are all the body taking steps to try to
Is it just me, or does somehow summer become the busiest time of the year? Between road trips and flights and kids being at home and backyard barbecues and beach days and trying to squeeze in a little fun for yourself, it feels like that you're constantly on the go. And that's why I always make sure that I keep Paleo Valley beef sticks on hand. They're made with 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef and simple ingredients that I can actually feel good about eating. There's no weird junk or mystery ingredients. They're just absolutely freaking delicious, protein-packed snack that's easy to just throw in your purse or throw in your beach bag. Because let's be honest, when you're running from one summer adventure to the next, convenience actually matters, but so does taking care of yourself. So if you want an easy grab-and-go snack to keep up with your busy summer, go and check out Paleo Valley beef sticks. Click my link below to get 30 for only $36. Your hungry future self will absolutely thank you.
If you or when you win your appeal and get out of prison, do you think you'll be accepted again by the people who were once your friends?
Well, I can't know what my friends will do or won't do. I mean, my focus won't be on that. I will always turn to what I've now decided that will form the rest of my life, which is helping other people who are or have been incarcerated.
Pause. The journalist, the reporter, the host, the interviewer did a very good job of framing that question because they specifically said, when you win your appeal, which was a way of bypassing her defensive behavior anyways.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. And we focus a lot on the reactions of the people, in large part because when you build a building, you start with the foundation. And the foundation of lie detection is in understanding the reactions of people. And you realize that what you ask, how you ask, your word choice, your pacing, the atmosphere you generate for them, all plays a role in the response that you're going to get. So it's not the same as controlling their response, but it is creating favorable conditions for veracity.
Can you point those out as we hear them as well? I think also helps people watching now not just identify someone's lying, but identifies this is how I need to ask the question to see how they respond.
Absolutely. I will certainly point out anytime the interviewer is using those questioning techniques that make veracity a higher likelihood.
Yeah, that would be great. All right, hit it.
When you look back and what you think your biggest mistake was?
I honestly wish I'd never met her.
Pause. Oh, that was so good. Did you see? She was looking to the left, truly referencing her own past, touching her face. These are all signs that would make me feel like she is about to give me an honest answer, but we don't know what she meant by the honest answer. I wish I never met him. What does that mean? I wish I never met him because he turned me into this thing that I am now. I wish I never met him because then I would have been able to do what I was going to do anyways without tripping on his issues. I wish I never met him because I know that I actually am glad that I met him, and I wish I could have met him without everybody knowing I met him, but I'm going to verbally say I wish I never met him because that's the answer that you need. Ooh, these types of veracity issues are difficult, but one way or the other, the tells in the verbal and nonverbal communication here are so distinctly different from what we've seen in other parts of Ghislaine. When do you ever see her look like that right there?
Yeah, it's so true. And I love how you're thinking about it because we all make assumptions. So when she says, I wish I'd never met him, we just fill in the blank. We don't actually question, what does she actually mean by that? We kind of go, oh, he must have trapped her as well. Maybe she's the victim as well. Like she's trying to paint that picture for us.
When you look back and what you think your biggest mistake was?
I honestly wish I'd never met her.
Pause again, because we talked about how important the question is. The other thing that's important to the question is the response, because the response tells you the interpretation of the question. His question to you and I was very direct. What is the biggest mistake you made? His question implied ownership. What mistake did you make? What was her answer?
I wish I'd never met him.
Is there any responsibility in that answer?
Interesting.
She's just saying, I wish I never met him, as if it happened to her.
Versus, I wish I hadn't accepted his invitation to this party that got this whole thing started in the first place.
I wish I would have never invested myself into him as a girlfriend. I wish I would have never trusted him. My biggest mistake was ... She didn't even talk about a mistake. She talked about an event that she could be out of control of, something that happened to her, something where she was the victim. I wish I had never met him. It's all his fault. But the question was, what was your mistake?
Oh, dude, that's a good catch.
Because I didn't know that he was so awful. I mean, obviously now, looking back with hindsight, of course.
Do you consider yourself a victim of Jeffrey?
Well, I don't love the use of the word victim.
There was a lot going on there, dude. What the hell? Break that down for us.
There was a lot going on there. So what you saw was a struggle. Remember how we talked about deception takes effort?
Mm-hmm.
Deception takes effort, and in that effort, we're not talking about just the effort to fabricate. There's also the effort to decide if, how, and when to fabricate.
Uh-huh.
So it's incredibly energy intensive. And what you see here is do you believe you were the victim of Jeffrey Epstein? Interrupted voices, head rotating in circles, trying to come up with the words, touching her face. I don't like the word victim. Why doesn't she like the word victim? In part, if she is a narcissist, she loves the word victim because she's the victim. What she might be saying is, I don't like the word victim as it applies to other people, that somebody was victimized by me. But how do you people not understand that I'm the victim here? Of course I'm a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Why do I have to explain this to you? Like that frustration, that offense, that affront, it's so obvious to her. She doesn't understand why we don't see it. But in what I saw in that wild series of movements in just about 3/4 of a second was struggle.
Yeah, actually, can you just rewind that tiny little bit? And then can I give you the red flag? And every time she does something that is red flag, can you yell what it is? And you got the double red flag.
I might need two. I might need two.
All right, so throw up the red flags as you see them.
Do you consider yourself a victim of Jeffrey?
Well, I don't
Interruptions.
love the
Switching hands, touching face,
use of the word
words, eye glances, frustration on the forehead.
Head down. Oh my God, yeah.
It's like, I feel like I'm directing a plane. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not funny, but it's impossible not to see it.
All right.
And on the more negative side, there are many women who feel betrayed by you and want you to stay in jail. What do you say to them?
I say that Epstein died and they should take their disappointment and upset out on the authorities that allowed that to happen. I hope that they have some closure by the judicial process that took place, and I wish them time to heal and to be able to have a productive and good life going forward. And that's what I hope for them.
I believe that she is crafting a sentence in real time. It's not something she's prefabricated. She's crafting a sentence that has double meaning. And the effort that goes into crafting that sentence is great, which is why you see the facial movements and the scratching and the touching. When you're trying to work your way through a concept, you oftentimes work with your body to make it happen. And I think what she is trying to craft from her point of view is, don't take your pain out on me. Take your pain out on somebody else who's already dead, and then don't blame the person that's dead either. Blame the authorities that let him get dead. That's really what she was pointing at, right? I'm paraphrasing what I understood from that. But what I'm seeing there is she's not taking personal responsibility. She's not even assigning personal responsibility to Epstein. She's saying that the victims themselves should go on with their lives and redirect their anger somewhere other than her or Jeffrey. A rational, healthy mind wouldn't see that as a sensical response. So when you hear someone say something like that, instead of just saying she's crazy or she's stupid or whatever else, you've got to recognize like how mentally, cognitively flawed must someone have to be to come up with that response to that question? No accountability for yourself, no accountability for the criminal who you supported. And you're putting it on the victims to get over it.
Right.
Nobody of a rational mind can say that and mean it. And that's unfortunately one of the things we have to consider with both Epstein and Maxwell is they were not like us.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is it a sign of just her being delusional in general, or is it a sign of having some guilt and not wanting to have any responsibility or tie to that?
I see no guilt. I see no sense of responsibility. I see 100% dissociation. And when we talk about narcissism versus disillusion, right? Disillusion and disassociation are two different things. Disillusion means that you believe in something that isn't real, a psychotic break. I don't see a psychotic break in this woman. She's living in the real world, but she is dissociated from the real world. All of that is my way of saying we are seeing the real Ghislaine Maxwell. The veil of what we saw in the deposition is stripped away. Her wealth and her poshness is stripped away. This is the real woman, and the real woman is sitting in jail on a phone, showing all the signs of someone who really doesn't understand why people have put her in jail.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, I know it might be a little difficult, but how nefarious does she come across in the whole recruiting, getting these women, bringing them back, like part of the whole system? How nefarious and involved do you think she is?
Yeah, I want to answer your question, but I have to dissect it into two questions, I think. There's how nefarious did she think she was being? And then how nefarious was she in measurable objective reality, right? Objectively, in the measurable reality, she was easily above 9 in her nefariousness. Without her as an interlocutor, girls wouldn't have trusted Epstein by himself. They wouldn't have trusted a man by themselves. They wouldn't have trusted an overweight, clunky woman. But a posh, sophisticated, British, beautiful, tall woman is the perfect segue to gain almost instant admiration, trust, opportunity. So she was critical to the whole process. The volume of girls would have been different without her. The age of girls would have been different without her. The intellect of girls would have been different without her. They would have been trapped with essentially having to steal or kidnap girls to try to collect them. But because of Ghislaine Maxwell, they were able to do so much more damage. So above 9 on the scale of how nefarious she actually objectively was. But I believe that from her point of view, she thinks that she was probably a 2. That she was duped, misled. So she, I don't think, feels like she was nefarious. I think she feels like she had a small role to play. Kind of like, if you consider the Diddy cases, kind of like the executive assistants who had to go buy the lube and the condoms. Right? I don't think they feel like they were complicit in the systematic raping of women, but I feel like they realized, I was duped and I had to go buy a case of lube. She's like, I was duped and I had to go to the park and tell women that they could be models in their future.
Now I'd like to move on to Virginia Giuffre, who is talking about the allegations. Play the video.
I started investing my thoughts and my time into what I thought I wanted to be when I grew up.
What happened?
I was approached by a very proper speaking English lady named Ghislaine Maxwell. And she approached me at the desk and she started talking to me about the book that I'm reading. And she just seemed very nice. And, you know, I didn't know what she was there for at the time. I do now, but she said, I've got a person that I know who's actually looking for a traveling masseuse. And if you want, I can get you an interview with him. And I said to her, I was like, I'm not by any means like licensed, or I've never, like, this is the first book I've read about it. So I'm not like in any, I can't do this, you know, professionally. And she said, no, don't worry about that. You just come over for the interview. If he likes you, we can get you educated. We can get you certified. You'll be a real masseuse and you'll get to travel and see the world. And you know, like, she made it sound like it was a dream come true. And it wasn't.
Pause. There are so many tells that are coming through both her verbal and nonverbal cues. And when you see it all, it's almost like having 3 conversations at once. So let me tell you what I'm seeing here.
Can we do something actually?
Yeah.
Can we separate then verbal and nonverbal?
Absolutely. I want to give you verbal and nonverbal, but then I also want to give you genuine and ingenuine because it's all happening.
Oh, okay. All right. So rewind the clip.
Let's do it. So to start, let's start with nonverbal, no audio.
Okay.
And I'd like to talk over what we're actively watching.
Amazing.
So go ahead and hit play. So you can see the strong eye contact that she's giving. And then the interviewer is trying to not cue up emotions before she asks the question. Now, what you see here, every time Virginia looks down, I want you to think that you're talking to somebody who's telling something embarrassing or shameful. And you can see the pain when she chooses to turn her look downward. That is not just her telling a story, it's her feeling the story again, reliving the moments again. When you look at that right there. Her body knows that what she's saying is embarrassing and shameful, so she wants to put as many barriers up as possible without even thinking about it. And that's what you're seeing with these long blinks, and that's what you're saying every time she leans back. And when you see her shrug her shoulders like that, these are all the body taking steps to try to protect her, even though it's decades old, right? And then in addition to that, what you're seeing is that her eyes move almost in a circular pattern. There's the time that she locks eyes on the interviewer, and then there's times that she's trying to recall details, and you'll see her look towards her left as she's recalling chronological details. But then there's also instances where she looks to the right. When I see her looking to the right, she's searching for something, but not a memory.
Right.
So what is she searching for? Those are the moments that I believe she is introducing some sort of deceit or deception into the conversation, but not with the intent to mislead or misdirect the interview. It's with the intent to try to protect herself. So rather than talk about the most painful details, maybe what really happened is when Ghislaine Maxwell approached her, she was actually excited to have someone talking to her, but she doesn't want to tell that story. So she's looking for a way to tell the truth without telling that detail.
That was so good. A couple of questions. So for someone that may be new to this channel and new to us, can you quickly explain the right versus the left look?
Absolutely. So when you ask a chronological question, which is what this interviewer and many very skilled interviewers will ask, it's an opportunity for everybody watching to get a sense of whether or not the person answering the question is telling the truth or not, because their eyes will move subconsciously in a direction like you read a chronology, because it's a chronological question, a time-based question. So just like you read from left to right in the English language, or you read from right to left in many Asian languages, you want to see the person's eyes move in the direction of their natural language. And here, in this case, Virginia is an English speaker. You would imagine she would look to the left if she's going to the beginning of something.
I never thought about it. So an Asian person actually would do the opposite?
Correct.
Oh my God, you've told me this 1,000 times and it never dawned on me.
And if you're talking to someone who's like Arabic, or if they're fluent in Japanese script, you'll actually see them go up and down.
Oh, okay, so that's a massive difference then, knowing where they're from. Okay, so she is actually looking to the lower right, not the lower left.
I think what we're seeing with the upper, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think the reason that we're seeing the shift up and down is more of an emotional response to the shame of the actions that she's taken, the decisions that she's made, because even while you and I look at her and we're like, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You were the target, you were the victim, you were systematically manipulated. That's not how she sees herself. She still sees herself as the 15-year-old, the 16-year-old who said yes. And there's still like a shame there. So when we see the up and down, we rarely see her eye level go higher than the interviewer's eyes, which means she's staying away from this idealistic, hopeful, future-oriented space. And she's living in the now, and she's living in the past.
Okay, so then follow-up question, when she does though look to the right, what's the difference between then in the past where you said they're looking to the right and therefore they're a liar, versus here where you're saying that she's doing it because she has to find a different wording? How do we know the difference between that and then someone just blatantly lying?
It is a blatant lie. This is what's difficult about when you talk about fabrication and sincerity. They are black and white. There are lies and there are truths. And We might talk about different categories of lies, lies of omission, where you just don't say the whole truth, lies of coercion, where you are forcing someone to believe something and telling a full out lie, white lies, which are innocent lies, and then you've got what we call dark lies or full-blown direct lies, bold-faced lies, which are blatant and complete fabrication. We, for social reasons, categorize them differently, but what they actually are is the difference between fact and non-fact. When I see her looking to the right, she's accessing the creative side of her brain in order to deliver a non-fact. Why that non-fact and how fabricated, the level to which it varies from the truth is a nuance, but to be fair, you have to call it a non-fact. She's deciding how to shape the fact to make it less factual, less painful, less scary, completely understandable as a human being. We've all done it 1,000 times, but that's what it looks like.
So in that sense though, if it's a non-fact, how do you know then if it's a softening of the story
Yes.
versus an actual lie?
It's an excellent point. The short answer to how can you tell whether it's a softening of the story or full-blown, what we would call a bold-faced lie, is the context. And then the marriage of nonverbals and verbals.
Got it.
You'll see body language match verbal cues.
Okay, understood. So what patterns then go with that?
So what you're seeing here is between the looks of shame physically on her face, the pace of her speech, the body movements that she's showing, the eye movements that she's showing, along with the lips, the shoulders, the nuance in the movements of the muscles around the eyes. This is an overwhelming abundance of evidence that shows me there's emotion, there is sincerity, there is trauma coming from the story. And in that discomfort, there is the incentive, there is the opportunity to fabricate a little bit to potentially preserve herself, her dignity, her grace. She doesn't want to cry in front of a camera. And sometimes the way that you do that is by a touch of fabrication to get through an emotional, difficult point. I'm going to select what I'm going to share so that I don't break down.
Yeah. All right, so that was a lot of the non-verbal then. Can we go over a couple of the verbal things?
Absolutely.
And if you can, pair them with the non-verbal that we've just spoken about.
Perfect. So let's go back to the beginning of the clip. And then with audio, and just be ready to pause.
Yeah.
Whenever
just
I punch
slam. There it is.
All right.
I started investing my thoughts and my time into what I thought I wanted to be when I grew up.
What happened?
So I'm working at Mar-a-Lago and I'm reading that book that I was just telling you about. And I was approached by a very proper speaking English lady.
Pause. There's so much that we've already just seen. So you see the open hand gestures. That's a sign of honesty. It's a sign of her trying to share her energy with the interviewer. Verbally, Virginia talks about being in Mar-a-Lago and being approached by, and then she paused as she's trying to find words to describe Ghislaine. And she darts her eyes to the right briefly, because put yourself in her shoes. What did Ghislaine Maxwell probably actually look like on first impression? She was probably well-dressed. She was probably beautiful. She probably looked and smelled like money. And that is most likely what the 15 or 16-year-old version of Virginia saw. But she didn't want to say that.
Oh, so she maybe admired Ghislaine, and so is part of that trying to not keep that tone of admiration?
Yes, and trying to find the words to describe what she admired without saying that what she admired was what a 16-year-old would obviously admire, which is glitz and glamour and beauty. So instead, she's like a proper English-speaking woman, which is also factual, right? But was that really the first thing that struck her in that conversation? That's what we're seeing here. Continue, please.
And she approached me at the desk and she started talking to me about the book that I'm reading. And she just seemed very nice. And, you know, I didn't know what she was there for at the time. I do now.
Pause. She seemed very nice. And I didn't know what she was approaching me for, but I do now. You see the blink pairing with the words to explain what's happening behind the scenes in her emotional self.
Oh.
You can see that she's using her eyes, without intentionally using her eyes, to block some of the pain, to shield some of the vulnerability that's coming out of this interview. And that's important because it matches the verbal cues. Where if somebody made locked in eye contact, well, I didn't know what she wanted then, but I know now. It's a completely different.
You just did it yourself, right?
Right?
Yeah.
So it lends a different level of authenticity to the conversation that's happening.
Do you see these types of certain signs typically in survivors when they're retelling their harmful and hurtful stories?
The short answer is yes, but it's much wider than survivors. Pain is universal, but pain is also analog. It comes in the same shape from different sources, right? Physical pain can come from touching a hot stove. It can come from a slap on the face. It can come from falling on your side off a swing. It's the same pain. The source is just different. The same thing is true about emotional pain, right? So whether you're embarrassed because of something you said, or embarrassed because of something somebody said to you, or embarrassed because of something you heard somebody else say about you, the embarrassment is the same, right? So the question doesn't become what's the shade of embarrassment, it becomes is the feeling real? And here the feelings appear to be real.
All right.
Continue, please, one more time.
She said, I've got a person that I know who's actually looking for a traveling masseuse. And if you want, I can get you an interview with him. And I said to her, I was like, I'm not by any means like licensed, or I've never, like, this is the first book I've read about it.
Pause. You could see the tempo in her verbal cues change as she was recounting that kind of early encounter, the big, slow, deep breath before she even started, and the interruptions, the pauses as she gave the story. These are indications to me that she is truly trying to reference back to that point in history. Now, I paused us here because she just talked about kind of reliving, reenacting, which what Ghislaine must have actually looked like when she approached her, right? Like, hey, I've got this opportunity. How do you feel? You can see her leaning into that story.
Right, yeah, that's what I was going to say. She leaned in.
She's embodying Ghislaine,
Oh,
right? I think everything up to this point that she has shared in the story of Ghislaine Maxwell is true, right? She may have tried to soften the story a little bit when it came to what she admired at first, but what we just saw in the last few seconds was very, very real. Now watch what happens in the next few seconds. Go ahead.
So I'm not like in any, I can't do this, professionally. And she said, no, don't worry about that. You just come over for the interview. If he likes you, we can get you educated. We can get you certified. You'll be a real masseuse and you'll get to travel and see the world. And like she made it sound like it was a dream come true.
Pause. A dream come true. Did you see where her eyes went?
Oh, no.
A dream come true. Her eyes went up, right? So you can literally see she is demonstrating to me that she is not trained at deception. She is embodying the truth, and her whole body is telling the story along with her. And you can see her referencing her chronology. You can see her referencing the hope that she had. You can see her referencing the shame that she feels. You can see her referencing when she needs to protect herself. And that's the concert that plays out when you look at her through multiple lenses at once.
So I just want to make sure I understood that last thing because that was really powerful. So as she said, the thing that was the dream, she looks up. That's an indication that that truly was something that she actually really fantasized and wanted in her life.
And that she may still have wished that that was how it played out. You get to travel the world. You get to see exciting places. Oh, the opportunities, the possibilities are endless.
All right.
And I didn't know anything about them. Looking back now, obviously as a mom, I wish I could tell that child to run away and run fast and never trust anyone inviting you to their home to offer you something amazing like that until you know who they are. You know what I mean? Like as a mom, I would have just told that girl to run. But I didn't, and I pleaded to the kinder side of human nature, and that's not what they were. They were not about that. They were after abusing me.
Pause. It's so painful to watch this because it's so relatable. And she just repeats the same patterns that have, I would call these now Virginia's patterns.
Oh.
Virginia's patterns of honesty, right? The long blinks at painful moments when she has the collision of what she's done in the past with who she is today, right? The longest pause that we've seen on her face, the longest blink that we've seen on her face just happened. As she's talking about being a mom and how she wishes she could just tell that little girl to run away. Sometimes the greatest truths hide in the darkness when we blink, because we don't have to see what we actually, this world around us goes away and it becomes an infinite world of black. And there's space there for us to process things easier than when the lights are on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing her pausing, her breathing, her facial expressions, her body movements, her eyes, her actual blink rate. It's all been so either carefully crafted or just sincerely put out there. And if I have to pick between the two, the probability is she is sincerely putting herself out there, because for her to have gone through what she went through and then to also make time for a family and to also try to rebuild her life, she probably didn't have the time to train for deception the way that you would have to train for deception in order to tell this convincing a story for this length of time.
That's what I was going to ask you. So on a scale of 1 to 10, as a normal human who hasn't had practice of CIA spy training, where do you think she is on her retelling of the story and its accuracy?
I'm going to caveat this because I already know I'm going to get angered people, but I'm giving her an 8 out of 10. Not because I think she's trying to deceive us, but because I think that she is realizing that there are genuine gaps in her own memory that need to be filled to make the story connect. So she has to find something that's reasonable as possible without being a full-on deception.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm giving her an 8 out of 10. Her signs show that she is telling the truth most of the time and trying to tell the truth the other times. But what I'm not getting is instances of straight up deception or misinformation for personal gain.
If you were then a CIA spy and you had to train to try and pretend and make this whole thing up and get an 8 out of 10 from you, how many months would you have to actually practice deception?
There's two options there. You would either practice deception as a skill or you would practice the rehearsal of the story.
Assume that it's the rehearsal of the story, because that's not going to be her life.
That would be so hard, Lisa, because she not only has to be able to tell the story that she's telling, but she has to be able to give the verbal and nonverbal coordinated cues so that someone like me would come to the conclusion I'm coming to. So that you're talking about rehearsing this story for weeks, 3 to 4 hours a day, with cameras on you so that you can watch your own video replays, so that you can see what your body is manifesting against your will, and then go back and rehearse it again to try to change it, to capture the pauses and capture the delays and capture the lipping and to capture the shoulder shrugging, to make a 60-minute interview where you get one chance on the X to tell the story the right way. That's how it would work.
The reason why I asked you that question is to kind of prove she's not an expert liar. She's literally just telling her story. And so the fact that you gave her the 8 out of 10 with the caveat, I totally actually understand that. I don't take that as a dig. I think that that's just human nature and that's part of her retelling of the story. But it's near impossible. So thank you for that. All right, I have a very short video of photos of her and Epstein. And I want you to just give us a very quick assessment of what these photos reveal about their dynamic.
Of course.
Here's Ghislaine Maxwell on trial, but in court, we're never far from the next mention of Jeffrey Epstein. And so the photos, used as evidence by the prosecution, give an insight into a relationship that is crucial to the case, and also to the way Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly recruited and groomed girls who Epstein sexually abused. Photos that show the power and privilege of this couple. This one thought to be at the Queen's Balmoral estate in the late 90s. And here, Maxwell and Epstein on board one of his private jets.
What I'm seeing in that series of photos, Jeffrey Epstein was the anchor. You can see him being the steadfast person, not showing affection to her as much as her showing affection to him. There's a single photo where he has his arm wrapped around her.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that he has her arm wrapped around her from the back, right here,
Mm-hmm.
this is a protective position. And because he's on the phone, you can very easily assess with moderate confidence that she probably walked up to him and even maneuvered his arm into that position.
Oh, you're right.
Because he was on the phone doing something else, right? So it shows me that she was in his orbit, not the other way around, and they certainly weren't equals. And that's the sense I get here, is that she was so excited to be around him that she's kissing him on the cheek, she's hovering, she's hugging. The next photo at the cabin, you can actually see him sitting like he was sitting naturally, and she snuggled up into him and put her hand on his thigh to be part of his world. For people who are in a relationship where one person is the anchor and the other person finds comfort in that anchor, they'll relate to these photos. That's not a power dynamic, that's not a unhealthy dynamic, it just is a dynamic, and that's the dynamic these photos show.
But again, just to make sure, it's not indicative of she was coerced or anything like that.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite of coercion or manipulation, because a coerced person does not seek comfort.
Oh, you're right.
A coerced person seeks distance. So if you were to see pictures of them sitting at the same table on two opposite sides, you certainly wouldn't see the constant smiles you see on Ghislaine's face. There's a huge difference between a person who is coerced and manipulated, captured on camera, versus somebody who is happy and comforted to be in that position. I honestly think that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are not a speed bump in the road, that they are a bookmark in history. There have always been powerful people, and powerful people abuse less powerful people. There are more examples of it than there are outliers outside of it, but there are both. So I feel like many of us are just waiting for this Epstein topic to go away. And I think we're thinking about it the wrong way. We need to see this as a very real manifestation of the history that we live in right now, not to mention how quickly this happened in relation to the Diddy trials, which were similar in so many ways, right? And when we recognize it for what it is, it will allow us to learn from it and move forward in a way that benefits us all.
Hells yeah. Dude, thank you so much for today. Anyone listening, if they want to follow you, where can they go and find all the amazing content and follow more of your, like, you've got courses and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can visit me at everydayspy.com, all of my links are in the description below. And you can also find me on YouTube if you just look up Andrew Bustamante or Everyday Spy.
Guys, literally he just said, if we can learn from this, it's horrific. It is heartbreaking. If you see other survivors and their testimonies, it is utterly heartbreaking beyond measure. And yet it still keeps happening. Like Andrew said, it's Diddy, it's Weinstein, it's Epstein, it's Ghislaine. When is it going to stop? It stops right here with these types of interviews, where we can start to flag what is the behavior that we can start to spot that is toxic. How do we spread the word? How can we tell people in our lives? So honestly, guys, the way you can really show the love right now is smash the subscribe button and share this video with every single person in your life so we can spread the word. So guys, thank you so much for joining. Smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Andrew Bustamante, the CIA spy. And without further ado, be the hero of your own life. Peace. If you want to spot the red flags and know if someone's lying and deceiving you by reading their body language, then you must watch this interview right here. Harvey Weinstein.
It's a complete fabrication about my relationship with Gwyneth.
We had one instance in a hotel room where he made a pass at me.
Pause there.